How's it going out there? Welcome, welcome. SandCity Sports. Welcome, welcome. Let's go across the board and get the socials lined up. Make sure everything is in order. All right. This guy's going to come over here. Wrong one. Let's get Twitter. Again, we don't acknowledge X around here. Boom. Good. IG is good. Facebook, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Facebook is good. All right. YouTube. YouTube is all set. Last but not least, let's get to Twitch. Twitch in order. Twitch is on point. All right, we're lined up. Ready to go. SandCity Sports Weekend Edition. Thrilled to be with you. Hope things are going well on your end. We got spring and summer trying to percolate here in New England. Still getting a lot of rain, but certainly doing their best. So let's get our volume in order. Get our volume right. And we gotta. Hey, let's get it moving and grooving. Y'all know what this is. Let's get it moving and grooving, huh? Hey, SandCity, to the business. I am your Run that back. Y'all saw what went down in the Midwest yesterday? Victor Wemby. Hey, I said, go New York, go New York, go. Yes, indeed, folks. I got the next. As I go ahead, got to get one of the shades got to be closed. Make everything look right. Make it look balanced. But there's no two ways about it as far as your boy is concerned. No two ways about it at all. You know I have the New York Knicks. This is 50 years in the making. Never mind it being a rematch. What are we talking about? 27 years in the making. We back in 1999, folks. We back in the 1999 times right now, in terms of this matchup. But yes, my New York Knicks, not under the capable leadership of Tom Thibodeau, who is an elite coach in this league. And we're going to talk about Tibbs as we move forward in this episode. But I got the Knicks taking it. And I hope, listen, Sunday night, a little bit later on the East Coast, but on the left coast, about 7:30. Okay, you're just getting into your evening. All right, as we get ready to, right? Wake up, get up. First of the month, get up, wake up. It's that first of the month. We get ready to put May in our rear view mirror and blast off into June. A busy month, an exciting month in the world of education. A lot of good things going on. Had prom. Um, here on the Cape in Barnstable. That was last Friday. Good event. I volunteer. I help out at the after prom celebration activity, which the community comes together and does a really good job. Got graduation coming up at the end of this week for many of the Cape District, but it's just fun. It's exciting. It's exciting to see the seniors kind of get to the end of their journey, and then everybody kind of moves up. It's that next step in the process. Um, so we want to finish the year on a good note. So that's good. Um, Weather's finally turned around. Still getting a lot of rain here on the Cape. The April showers, they're supposed to be in the past, but April showers is trying to come through and take over. It's time for the May flowers. Certainly a number of flowers bloom. But I hope you're doing well out there in television land. I appreciate we got one viewer on the Facebook. I appreciate you. You know what the time it is. Me Casa, Su Casa. So if you have something, go ahead and jump into the comments. We got a lot to get to. We're talking NBA Finals. Um, of course, we have the NBA draft coming up. AJ DeBanza, the pride of Brockton. We'll talk about AJ. Pride of Brockton, Massachusetts. Odds on favorite to be the number one pick. A lot of talent in the draft. We are going to be discussing Jackson Dart and the situation going on in the Empire State. Going to be diving into that. It's an important topic, and your views are welcome. So yeah. See, we got a viewer on Twitch. I appreciate you. A couple people tuning in vis-a-vis the Facebook. You know what I mean? Jump in the comments. I will be checking. And we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna do this thing together, right? Me, when I say that, I mean that. When I say that mi casa is su casa, I mean that, folks. All right. So that's just what it is. Okay. So let's dive right into it. SandCity, Sunday night edition. It's a sanctified Sunday. A lot to be thankful for. Have some things to share that I'm thankful for. Some praises, some blessings. Yeah. Okay, the people, my people. I don't know about you guys out there in television. I don't know if we have any San Antonio Spurs fans out there in television. Okay, but we're getting the finals. I'm getting the finals that I was hungering for. Okay, and it's twofold. And as the week goes on, I'm gonna have my Knicks gear. I'm gonna be flying my colors, right? Because I stayed with the Knicks. I was not pleased in terms of what happened with my coach Tom Thibodeau. That has all turned around in spades. We are going to dive into within this richness that we have, that entire narrative. People want to throw shade and got things to say about my main man, Tom Thibodeau, an elite coach in this N.B.A. who's about to return to the Windy City to bring the Chicago Bulls back to prominence. That's the rumblings. And if Chicago knows what's good for them, all right, they'll get on board and bring Tibbs back, okay, to get that ship in order. Not that Billy Donovan is not a capable coach, because he's very capable. And that was a paradox for me in terms of why Chicago did not do more under the capable leadership of Billy Donovan. But that ran its course. They're looking for a leader. Tom Thibodeau needs to be that leader, and we can go from there. But right, it's paid off in spades. Okay, a difficult decision was made, but Mike Brown has captured lightning in a bottle. Again, I'm going to dive deep into the coaching in a little bit. But let's just look at this, right? We got JB. I know we got a JB here in the Commonwealth, Jaylen Brown, who needs to be staying in the Commonwealth, so the Celtics can continue to be competitive. Been clear on what the Celtics need to do. They need to bring back Drew Holiday, and just end it at that. This whole talk about big moves and bringing in Giannis, you're going nowhere unless you have a true floor general, and you had that person, Drew Holiday, all right, and you let him go. And I don't want to hear about the second apron. Okay, that's another thing, right? That's a part of this conversation as we talk about the marquee matchup that we have here in the NBA Finals. Again, a rematch of the '99 NBA Finals. If you guys remember, that was a lockout year. That was the year the Chicago Bulls were talking about organizations win championships, not players. Y'all remember that? We were just talking about the Chicago Bulls and how they need to, right? Have they had success since the '98 season, the last dance? We know that they haven't. Oh, hold on. They did have success. When who was leading the ship? Yeah, right. I want Mr. Tom Thibodeau. Yeah. Right. Tom Thibodeau returned prosperity to the Windy City. Right? Y'all need to get on your game and bring that man back, so we can lift y'all back up. Okay. But the late '90s, right? My fantasy sports league, I got to check. I won't check right now. My matchup, my fantasy baseball matchup, it was tied. It was very close. It was a very close matchup. So I'm not going to check, but I do hope I got over the top there in that matchup to earn the victory. But the commissioner of our league, our commish, calls himself the Wizard. He's a big time Bulls fan, and he stayed with the Bulls. All right, I'm coming from the great state of New Jersey, right? Early '90s, Patrick Ewing, Xavier McDaniels, Derek Harper, right? When we had the hand checking, John Starks, okay? Those are my Knicks teams. I'm still upset. I know Nick Fandom, remembers the Charles Smith debacle in Game 5, right? Remembers that. On the Knicks' way to a losing in 6 games against the dreaded Bulls, led by one Mr. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who then took his act on the road, went to Phoenix on the road, and snatched Game 1 and Game 2 on the road in Phoenix. Put them in a situation where they was down 3-1. Phoenix battled back, if you remember that series. They were winning in Game 6 in Phoenix to force a Game 7. Before John Paxson came in and slammed the door. Michael Jordan doesn't do Game 7s, at least in the finals. Right? Remember those days. But this, right, that was my point that I was making, is that when Michael Jeffrey Jordan left basketball and then returned back to basketball in '96, and the patent leathers came out, that was I had to switch, and the commish, the Wizard of our fantasy sports league, he has stayed with the Bulls through thick and thin, and it's been a lot of thin since the Michael Jordan era. So I got to credit him. I returned to the Bulls, so just right. We're in the late '90s. Patent leathers came out. I had to go. I had to, you know what I mean. 72-10 don't mean a thing without that ring. I was on the Bulls. I was on the Bulls for the second three-peat. And then it was organizations win championships. We remember this from the Last Dance when we were all locked up during the pandemic. We remember that. Crumbs. One Mr. Jerry Krause. I was deep into it. I read Sacred Hoop. This was when I was actually coming up through the ranks in my basketball journey, which had highs and lows, but still in the game. Loving it. Had the referee today. Good men's league game. Right? I was locked in those high school days, those hoop dream days. Still, that fire still burns years and years later. But the point of fact, and then we are going to get to the present tense, but that '99 season where we lost one Mr. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who rode off into retirement because he wasn't going to play for another coach outside of Phil Jackson. Now he did come back, but it could have just been a continuation. But no, organizations win championships. Nonsense. Okay, Scottie Pippen took his talents to Houston to win a championship with the Dream and Charles Barkley. That did not work out. Then he took his talents to Portland in 2000. You want to talk about that? Should have worked out. Lakers went up big. Portland stormed all the way back, and Portland was 14 points. That was the night of my senior prom, by the way. I believe that game 7 was that night of my, or it might have been a Sunday. The prom was on I think it was game 6 that Portland won was the night of my senior prom, which is June 2nd, 2000. I don't mind telling you. I still have some of these artifacts. Very important to me. And then I think it was a Sunday when the Lakers had the, Brian Shaw went crazy in the fourth quarter, and they stormed all the way back to win that, to begin their first repeat. That Portland team was ridiculous. By the way, that was also the first year, folks might remember, that was the 99-2000 when the Dreamcast came out and the basketball landscape was changed forever with N.B.A. 2K. N.B.A. 2K came out. Again, NBA, Allen Iverson being on the cover. You can play 4 people at the same time. This is before all the online stuff came out. Revolutionary in those days. Right? But the year before, 99, and we are going to get to the present tense, that was the sophomore season, right, of one Mr. Tim Duncan, who came into the league, served notice, all-star as a rookie in 98. The last dance, Tim Duncan was already making it clear what type of player he was going to be. And 99, the Spurs were dangerous in a lockout shortened season, so 50 games. But they were making noise, and right. We go back and check the receipts on this season. Your boy, the Cape Cod Kid here, SandCity Sports. I've been on the Spurs from day one. So, I'm looking forward to this summer, having some time and being able to go back through previous episodes. But this is not tipping my cap, but I've been Spurs saying that this team this season was going to be a force, was going to be a threat in the West. Here we are. They've usurped the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's not a surprise to me. Might not have been a surprise to many. Again, go back if you're one of the folks that tunes in to SandCity. You can go back and check the previous episodes. It's not, the receipts are there. Because look, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Victor Wembanyama could be in Charlotte, right? It was between Charlotte and San Antonio in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. He goes to San Antonio, where they have the infrastructure to support a player of his caliber, right? They do this in San Antonio, right? Remember in the 80s, get the number 1 pick? Yeah, we're taking David Robinson. He's not going to play for 2 more years. He's a man of character. He's not coming into the NBA until he does his commitment with the Navy. He's just not going to do it. But he committed, no, I'm not doing it. Man of character, man of faith. Not, okay, we're going to take him and just wait. He's that talented. We're going to take him and wait. We're going to do it. Okay. Took him, waited, and then when he finally finished his commitment and was ready for basketball, he came out just dominant. All right, a generation later, people in Boston will remember this. Rick Pitino had enough. Talking about Larry Bird, he's not walking through that door. Robert Parrish is not walking, he was going through it, Rick Pitino, in his time in Boston. He did what he could, running and gunning, and Walter McCarty and Antoine Walker, a lot of his guys from Kentucky, brought him in, Ron Mercer. But when Pitino came here, I believe his first year was 97, right? He thought he was getting Tim Duncan. He thought he was getting Tim Duncan. That's what he thought. Okay, he came here, took the job with the understanding that he was going to have an all-time great player to anchor what he was going to do. And it didn't work out that way, okay? Got good players, right? Antoine Walker. Folks might not remember Ron Mercer. He was a problem. Chauncey Billups, a young Chauncey. They were young, played fast, but they didn't have the first ballot Hall of Famers, okay? Duncan took his talents to San Antonio. Again, he's an all-star 98, serving notice. And then 99, they had, and my point of fact, folks, is, and by the way, let's remember that New York Knicks team under the capable leadership of Jeff Van Gundy in 1999 was an 8th seed. The Heatles, the Miami Heat fans will remember, I believe that was the Allen Houston year where he shot it, it bounced up, hit the ceiling, and then went in. Right, that was the Allen Houston Latrell. That Allen Houston shot might have been a difference year. I don't know if that was 99. It might have. I don't know who they knocked out. In my mind, I think they knocked out the Heat in the first round as an 8th seed. I have to go back and double check that. But the Knicks were, hey, okay, Larry Johnson, an older Larry Johnson, shooting threes, hitting threes off the backboard. Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Marcus Camby out there causing havoc. They were just nothing. Had just nothing to lose. Okay, and broke through and made a finals that they probably shouldn't have made it, right? The Knicks should have made the finals in 95 for a rematch with the Houston Rockets, and they should have won the finals in 94 as far as I'm concerned. The year after MJ was there, but that was the Dreams year, and Hakeem Olajuwon wasn't having it, and John Starks couldn't see the basket in Game 7. But the 99 Knicks were upstart team, okay, but point of fact is that Spurs team in 99, just like this Spurs team in 2026, was dangerous. They weren't supposed to make the finals. If you remember, I know I'm dating myself. I don't care. That was supposed to be Karl Malone, John Stockton, the Utah Jazz's year. They had broken through and made 2 straight finals. Who was waiting for them? Michael Jeffrey Jordan. No soup for you. None. Not at all. You get nothing. Right? The Utah Jazz, who had been giving people fits since the late 80s, pushing Magic Johnson to the very limits. Okay, John Stockton, who we've talked about on this show, and are going to continue to talk about. 19-year N.B.A. career, I believe. Missed 22 total games. Played every single game, 16 seasons. All-time leader, and it's not even close in assists and steals. We put respect on John Stockton's name around here. We do that. 99 was the time for Stockton and Malone to finally, there was no Jordan there to stop them. That was their championship. You know who said no? Right? In terms of people that's loyal to the soil, I know Karl Malone jumped ship and wanted to get a championship in 2004. That was the year Kobe had his case. And it just, it was 12 guys or 15 guys and 15 cabs. Right? The Kobe Shaq bandwidth had ended. Kobe had his legal problems. Gary Payton and Karl Malone, can they learn the triangle? Can they fit in? They're used to playing a different style. It was all those things. Similar to in 99 when Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, and Hakeem Olajuwon started to but it's you got a square, you got a circle, you got a rectangle, you got a rhombus. The shapes, they don't fit together. Can't just, this whole AAU, we just put all the talented players on one team and we're going to win it. You have no continuity. Houston didn't have it in 99. The 2000 Trailblazers found it at the last minute, pushed the Lakers to the absolute brink. Okay? It's harder than it looks. But back to 99, it does hurt my heart that John Stockton and Karl Malone weren't able to break through. But a young kid named Tim Duncan, who was ready from day one, a veteran David Robinson, who was still he wasn't the dominant David Robinson of the late 80s, early 90s, Dream Team starting center David Robinson. Okay? But he's still, giving you quality minutes. Just like he gave him quality minutes in 03 when they won a championship and he rode off into the sunset. Avery Johnson, just a point guard, floor general, a leader, like what the Celtics need, what they gave away. Talking about the second apron, talking about analytics. You gave away a championship when you let Drew go. You did it to yourself. Period. End of story. No two ways about it. Okay? I don't care what the Celtics need. It's Drew Holiday or bust. Period. said it. I'm continuing to say it. I don't care. Like this team, like all the players. Peyton Pritchard comes down to the Cape. Very generous with the youth, the athletes, so on and forth. I like the Celtics. They're not going to compete for a championship unless they have Drew Holiday at point guard or a Drew Holiday comp. And I'm not sure who the Drew Holiday comp is. So you might just want to bring back Drew. Trade some of your young guys, some picks, and get Drew back if you want to compete with JB and JT. It's just that simple. But the Spurs in 99 had that point guard, just like the Spurs in 2026 have those point guards. You don't just have one. They got two. Or you can throw three because Stephon Castle handles the ball. So they got two or three. Really, it's De'Aaron Fox who's the guy. I know he's playing through injury, but De'Aaron Fox is their floor general. And then Dylan Harper, another conversation we're going to have, no end in sight, folks, about who the best rookie is in this class. And based on what I've seen, the best rookie in the class 2026 does not play in Dallas or Charlotte. I said what I said. What Dylan Harper has been achieving on the low, not getting the fanfare of teams or very talented. Cooper's extremely talented. Kneppel, extremely talented. All right? They're not playing for NBA championships. Not even close. Dylan Harper's over here on the biggest of biggest stages as a rookie and out there putting in the work. Period. So as far as I'm concerned, he is the best rookie in the class of 2026. And I'm 10 toes down on that based on what I've seen. Yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't. Cooper Flag, tank mode. Dallas. They're still trying to figure out what the heck they did wrong with the championship team that they've just ran into the ground. So I don't even know what they're doing in Dallas. All right? Possible ownership changes. They're so far from competitiveness, it's not even close. All right? And Charlotte under the capable leadership of Charles Lee, again, assistant who was brought into the Boston Celtics after Joe Mazzulla was left all by his lonesome on the heels of the M.A. Udoka disaster. Okay, people talking about Joe Mazzulla is a good coach. He needs help. He needs a robust staff. You ain't give him a robust staff in 2023. That's how you blow. You go down 3-0 against a doggone Miami Heat, come back, win 3 straight, and then get blown out in Game 7 at home. He didn't have the help. There's no way you just throw him out there against a Spoelstra and expect no. And a Spoelstra that didn't even have Tyler Hero. Just no. Okay. Then Brad Stevens, recognizing the error of his ways, beefed up that coaching staff, brought in Sam Cassell, brought in Charles Lee, brought in Emil Jefferson out of Duke, and then brought in Jeff Van Gundy, okay, who many people are saying could be the guy. I think I heard him linked to the New Orleans job, if I'm not mistaken. Double check that. But yeah, so you gave Joe Mazzulla 3 head coaches. Sam Cassell is a head coach in waiting. Charles Lee is currently a head coach, and Jeff Van Gundy's a lead assistant, with head coaching experience. So, and then they won, they had the historic season. Okay. Next year they come back, but in 2025, they did lose to my New York Knicks under the capable leadership of Tom Thibodeau. Which really no shame in that because Tibbs was, the team is ready, the team is built. But a part of that is that Joe Mazzulla was also, again, he didn't have the forces with him because you lost Charles Lee, who's doing a tremendous job in Charlotte, and you lost Jeff Van Gundy, who is, odds-on favorite to be back in the head coaching ranks. Mazzulla needs help, period. Help the man out. He needs Drew, and he needs coaches. Just stop. But back to the San Antonio Spurs team, folks, which we've been on here in SandCity from day one. Okay? These youngsters are tried and true, and that's what you're seeing. And that's why I come back with my take, and we'll talk about it more. Dylan Harper's the best rookie in this class. That's it. You can talk all the fanfare and flash and dash. Dylan Harper is out here on the biggest of big stage. And by the way, he doesn't have the opportunity like a Cooper or a Khan. You talk about the pace that the Charlotte Hornets play with. I love it. Running and gunning. You got Lonzo, who can, he needs to kind of tone it down off the court. He does. But Lonzo's out there just running and gunning, distributing. Guys are getting open. They had the green light, and they're raining it down. So both Kneppel and Cooper have high usage, high opportunities because they play on these building teams. By the way, Dylan Harper has to come off the bench. He's getting his opportunities in spots and still shining bright. in huge moments. He's the best rookie. Yes. He don't have all this, can be able to shoot 27, 28 shots, make 12 of them, get to the free throw line, score 30 some odd points, and everybody's, rolling out the red carpet. He has to be efficient in certain spots and in big moments, and he's doing it. Okay, never mind the masterful performance that we saw in game 1. What's going on, B Mills? I see you. I appreciate you on the IG. My man B Mills. South Kakalaki. Malden, South Kakalaki. Yes, I remember. My man B Mills down there in the Southland. Okay? Great experience going to Nyack with him in those years. Okay? We needed to see more B Mills, frankly. B Mills needed a lot more playing time. That's another thing. Hey, I remember. Had a lot of talent on those teams. We had a lot of talent on them teams. Your sophomore year, you came in the starting lineup. We needed to see. It would have been great if you had to come back. I know it was brick cold outside, and there was all those, you know what I mean. But those teams were loaded. Those teams, we had a lot of talent. Y'all had a lot of talent on those teams, and I just wish a lot of talent. And had they just in those days just let that talent cook, we talking B Mills at the 5. Okay, Boona didn't even play, Bobby, your sophomore year. He had to get eligible. He was there the next year. But we had Mufu at the 4. We had Young Bricks, Brian at the 3, and then Teus and then Mo at the 1 and 2. Teams were filthy. If those Nyack teams had just let if they, you know what I mean? And it's a lot, it's challenging. And I'm going back on my college days real quick, but when you have teams that have a lot of depth, because we talk about Adam Ballman, I remember Adam Shooter could go out there and get it. Those teams were those teams. And even the year after you left, this team still had a lot of talent, but we didn't have B Mills. Ooh, because if you would have played with Boona, oh my goodness, those teams could have competed for national. I believe that. I believe Nyack in those early 2000s had the talent to be on a national stage. To just let if we went with what my coach Tom Thibodeau likes to do, my coach with a 7-man rotation, okay, the Fighting Parsons, transition to the Warriors, but Fighting Parsons in the early 2000s, those teams could have competed on a national level. There's no two ways about it. Caldwell, Felician, Goldie Beacom, whoever, Holy Family, all these. See it? No. The talent that was there, the coaching staff, I ain't gonna say no names. The coaching staff had just let that top 7 cook. Okay, those teams, and I've said it again. But my point is, okay, and what Tibbs shows you. By the way, Coach K is a 7-man rotation guy. We are gonna get back to the Spurs, folks. But I got my man B Mills checking in on the IG, so we have to do a throwback right here. The point of fact is, and I'm going back to the early 2000s, Nyack, Fighting Parsons, then the Warriors teams, loaded, okay, wanted to do, in my view, the YMCA rotations and a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there. I got to give everybody a little, everybody got to get a little taste. No, that's basketball is not hockey. It's not hockey, folks. It's basketball. So you need to go out there and you don't get tired. You don't get tired in these games. You can play guys can play the entire game if they, if you only went 7 deep, you can win a championship with health and 7 dudes. Obviously, you need 10, 11, 12 for practice purposes, but you can win a championship with 7 dudes. How many national championships does Coach K has? He has 5. This is a person that believes in a 7-man rotation. What did John Wooden say? Okay? John Wooden coached the first 7 players. That's who he coached. The first 7. The other 5, okay. But the first 7 is who I'm keying in on. And my thing is, when you have a talented team, right? And you're worried about getting guys minutes because that's fine. But you can blow this team out. If you put your first 5 out there and just let them cook and run and do what they do, you can build up a 15, 17, 20, 25. Yes. In a college game, yes. You can build up a 20-plus point lead. We're talking about halves. You play 20-minute halves, yes. You can build up a 20-plus point lead with what? Like 12 minutes to go in the second half? Yes. And then you can give other guys an opportunity. You can give other guys an opportunity after, you've built up that commanding lead. So your first 7 gets you to that 20, 25 point. And then even if it's the last 10 minutes of the game or the last 8 minutes, that's still a lot of time for you to, go into your bench and get the next 5 or 6 guys, give them quality minutes to show something. 8 to 9 minutes, 7, 8 minutes of game time versus no game time is a big deal. So I saw B Mills, appreciate you. Shout out to, the Nyack Fighting Parsons, a.k.a. the Warriors. Good times in the college days. I appreciate the check. Okay, guys, back to this finals. Let's dive deep into this right now. Again, I have the Knicks winning it. I have it going 7. Strength against strength. Spurs are favorite. That doesn't faze me not one bit. Okay, because there's a couple of things. First of all, this Knicks team is on a historic pace. They've won 11 straight. They haven't just won 11 straight. They're smacking teams silly. Margin of victory, double-digit victories, haven't lost in a month. Do I think they're going to be a hot knife through butter? No, I don't. But the point of fact is, right, this San Antonio, they're dangerous. They're young. And what I mean by that, when I say they're young, it doesn't take away because, right, you don't know what you don't know, right? And they they're playing at a high level. You got guys, Vassell making contribution, Champagne, however you want to pronounce it, is out there hooping. Keldon Johnson had some huge buckets. You saw it in the fourth quarter. He had like 8 points, 2 threes. One of the threes was contested, making it. Then he come through and get I love how San Antonio was getting their tip dunks on, right? You saw them, right? Going for the rebound action off of the misses. They got a couple. Keldon Johnson, some huge buckets to give them the cushion that they needed in the fourth quarter. But folks, do we not remember that Jaylen Williams was not in that game? All right, we're going to talk about Chet Holmgren. We got some, he's taking a hit right now. He's taking a major hit. People, and we'll get some of the things that they're saying about Chet that I don't know if they should, but they're saying them anyway. Okay, so we'll get some of that stuff out to talk about it. But I don't necessarily buy that narrative, frankly. Oh, Chet, he only took 4 shots. Only doing, you know what I mean? Look, they have an egalitarian offense, and you saw how many threes Kassan Wallace hit down the stretch to keep OKC in the game. Did you see that? Right, we got to go with the hot man. What should he be forcing shots and not generating the right shots? Okay, all of this stuff about Chet and hitting. No, they lost because they lost. And then they didn't have Jaylen Williams. They have a big 3. They don't have a big 4. Ihart is not a future all-star. He's a good player coming from the Tibbs tradition. He's not an all-star. San Antonio has 4 all-stars. 4. And Wemby, MVP candidate. De'Aaron Fox, all-star. Castle, rookie of the year, all-star to beat. And you see Dylan Harper is on an all-star trajectory. And by the way, all this nonsense that's being talked about, I don't know. Dylan Harper's playing well. I don't know if they need all 4. What are we doing here, folks? I don't appreciate the second apron. I don't know what it's solving. I don't know why people don't like, you have a dominant team, a dynastic team. Now we want to see it broken up. What's the point of building a dynasty just to break it up? You put together a dynasty, you're supposed to win for a decade. How many dynasties did we have in the awesome 80s? The Lakers, dynasty. The Celtics, dynasty. The Pistons, dynasty. Okay? That's 3 teams that won multiple championships. Lakers, 5. Celtics, 3. Pistons, 2. Right? Sixers snuck in there in 83. Get them a championship. I think the rest of those 3 teams. 80, Lakers. 81, Celtics. 82, Lakers. 83, Sixers sneak in. 84, Celtics. 85, Lakers. 86, Celtics. 87, 88, Lakers. 89, Pistons. 90, Pistons. Okay? Dynasties! What are we doing? breaking up a doggone dynasty, as if that helps anybody. Second apron foolishness. Celtics getting rid of Drew. Ridiculous! Tomfoolery! Ought to be ashamed. Shameful! Back to my New York Knicks conversation that people might have forgotten about. Okay? We talked about this. Okay? La Cosa Nova. The Nova connection. The Nova Knicks. Jaylen. We still missing Ragu. I'll come back to it. Josh Hart. Talk about a deal. Trick Cam Reddish. Go. Bring in Josh Hart. Ready. And then Mikal Bridges. How talk about people want to talk about those picks? I was on that from day one. I told you. We need La Cosa Nova. That with what we had. And what did La Cosa Nova bring? They brought prosperity back to the Big Apple. What are you talking about? All right? And being, coming from the J. Wright, pride of Philly, Nova, right? Coming from that upbringing, those good roots, what are the Knicks doing? Have they done? And this is a roadmap for everybody else. Never mind, we don't need the second apron to start with. What are the Knicks doing? They're taking less money to stay together. We understand when, the second apron that we don't need, but it's there. So we're going to be smart. We're going to be strategic. We're going to take a little less to get it on the front, okay? So we can keep this thing together, because we know if we bring a championship home to New York, we ain't paying for no wine. We ain't paying for no dinners. We ain't paying for no lunches, no breakfasts, no nothing. The championship will give you your money back in spades. You win a championship, you get all your money back in perpetuity. It's like having royalties on a top hit. It's going to keep turning over money. So you're not making that initial investment is ridiculous. All my financial analysts, you come rain down on me right now if you want to. But that's my view. I'm 10 toes down. So just the way the Knicks have taken less to keep this thing together, to keep it rolling, because they understand the value of a championship. You know who did that, by the way? Okay, Patrick Mahomes. But he don't know what he's doing. How people criticize Patty Mahomes for his elastic contract. How many Super Bowls? He won 2-3 more Super Bowls since then. People haven't said much. Tom Brady. Oh, he's taking these team friends. Okay, how many? We forget that with his 7 championships, right? The things that he did to win those championships. Paying off in spades. So San Antonio with their 4 guys, character guys, I see them following a similar trajectory. Wemby wants to win. They're winners. And because, and this is true of the rookies that when we get to the draft class, right? They saw the big picture, and they came up under some discipline and some coaching. So the reason I had confidence as I go, I'm going to go get, because I know Chet has been, people have been saying things about Chet. So we're going to get some things with Chet. You know what I mean? People have been, they've been on Chet. So we're going to get some of those things for you on the screen. But as I pull that up, right? Stephon Castle, you know what I mean? Yeah, he went to UConn to be coached. Who going to give me more to NIL, and who's going to do this? No. I want to be coached. This is the training that I need that's going to pay off down the road. Yeah. So now he's in these big moments, and what is he doing? What is he doing? He out there giving SGA fits. Giving SGA fits. Yeah. That UConn tradition. How about Dylan Harper? What's he doing? Okay. Pride of Rutgers. Son of Ron Harper. Brother in the league. Mom was his coach in high school. Yeah. We ain't here, you know what I mean, as I get my Chet stuff ready to go. We're not impressed with success, this little success that we're having right now. We staying hungry. We keeping the big picture in mind. Yeah. So they get on these big stages and they're ready. Right? And I respect all that. But you know who's also ready? You know who's waiting for them? JB over there ready. JB got something for you. Fox, you gonna do what you gonna do. Lefty, JB, hey, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Yeah, Mikal Bridges, ready. Castle, you coming from the UConn tradition? Hey, Nova over here. This is all Big East thing. We know what this is. We know what this is. That Big East championship at the Garden. You already know. Okay, you coming at me, I'm coming at you. And what? All right. Young Hart, he out there ready? Hey, who's it gonna be? It's gonna be no. Josh Hart will be chasing around Champagne, but that Young Harper, okay, you can put Hart too, because Hart's, but we got OG as well. We got the last OG. Yeah, Harper. Yeah, we got the last OG. And the alien, yeah, but that's it's not Fat Man Scoop. Shout out to Fat Man Scoop. Okay. That Fat Man Scoop, man. Okay. Hold on. This was when this was that Fat Man Scoop. Hold on. Let me see if we got this right. Nope, that's not it. I need the Fat Man Scoop. Let me see real quick, because I have to. Let me see if this is it. I might have to. What? What? This was my college day. What? That Power 94.5 Fat Man Scoop. That Fat Man Scoop, that NYC. What? The finals is returning to the Mecca. What? That Power 94.5. So what I'm saying is, San Antonio, y'all got y'all for NYC. This NYC, JB, Mikal, Josh Hart, OG, and A. That we got Fat Man Scoop and we got Cat Man Scoop. What? Hey, you gonna see the best of Karl Anthony Towns. Y'all gonna see the best of Karl Anthony Towns. He knows what this is. That's Don Bosco, New Jersey right there. He's doing it for his city. Woo! Hold on, let me see. I got to get the edited version. But that was a little, hold on. We get the edited, but you have no idea the energy that's coming through with the Knicks being in this finals. Bananas! Knicks in 7. Let's go! Let's go! Wemby has the edge. I'm telling you right now. You done sparked the beehive. Cat is coming from another place. I'm telling you right now, I got Karl Anthony Towns going off. Play the receipts on this. Wemby is Wemby, but Cat is going to challenge him. I'm telling you right now. The Knicks can match up pound for pound with this young Spurs. This is a good matchup. Guards, bigs, versatility. I'm telling you. What? The Spurs, it's a big deal. But This is 50 years in the making, folks. This is 50 years in the making. Shh. See if we get the hold on. I need the drop clean version. Let me get the clean version. There we go. We got the clean version, so I ain't got to come back. I'm telling you right now. This is, hey, if the Spurs get it, they get it. But y'all have no idea. Bobby Mills, you know what I'm talking about. The Knicks can come through and win this championship. You have no idea. We're talking Red Sox in 04. We're talking Cubs in 2015, 16, 17, whatever they won a championship. It's beyond Cleveland in 2016. Bananas. Okay, this is going all the way back to 94, Game 7. We got a chance to right the wrongs. Another Texas team. It means more to the Knicks. I'm sorry, it does. This means more to the Spurs can take it, but it means more, and I think you're going to see it as this series plays out. You're going to see it as this series plays out. Wemby hates. I'm telling you, Catman Scoop. Cat is going to be ready. Come back to this. He's going to be ready. Let's go. Hey! I'm telling you. Knicks in 7. Let's go. Fat Man Scoop. That Catman Scoop is coming. That Karl Anthony Towns is telling you right. Woo! It's going to be a good one. But and the other thing, folks, as we get ready to move on, it's a homecoming for a lot of people. Right? Dylan Harper, he's Jersey. So he's coming back to the Apple. He's coming back to his roots. On the other side, hey, Mike Brown. You know, it's been a circuitous journey for him, very much so. But Mike Brown, what tree did he fall from? Where did he do his apprenticeship? Oh yeah, under Pop. Mike Brown's a Pop guy. Okay, so him returning to San Antonio to coach the Knicks in an N.B.A. championship, right? There's just a lot of this is a full circle for a lot of the players. Wemby breaking through this early to get to a championship. The Spurs, here for the establishing themselves for the foreseeable future. Okay, they're gonna be battling OKC for many years. Who the heck knows what's going on in Houston? They were supposed to be in this mix. Who knows what's going on in Houston? Honestly, they're just. It's just an enigma. Kevin Durant, is just an enigma. He just is, right? Lakers, we don't know. Okay, teams are trying to build and do the draft, so on and forth, right? But we know the Spurs are going to be there. We know OKC is going to be there, right? This could be the Celtics and the Pistons, of the 80s. Every year, just duking it out, to have that opportunity for a championship. Right. And again, on the other side, it's this Knicks team. You can favor. I just think this is even money. These are two comparable teams. Okay, they both do a lot of the same things. Right. Wemby's obviously a unicorn. I'm telling you right now, I think Cat's gonna have a big series. I'm telling you. Okay, so Wemby can be, but he's not gonna be able. Right, iHeart. He had the moonshot, which was kind of crazy. Okay, but let's not even compare iHeart to Cat in terms of their versatility and what they can do. All right, Cat. This is a guy. His defense isn't what it was, frankly, because he's a Calipari guy. He's a Jersey guy, so I thought he's been a better defender in years past. As he become more of a scorer, his defense has right. But the Mitch Rob is there. You need a bruiser, right? They got Cornette for San Antonio. The Mitch Rob, from the injury, but he's going to be back. So it's just matchups galore. Matchups galore. I got the Knicks. I got no problem with this thing going 7. Right, but I feel the Knicks can match up, right? What they've locked into, and then Spurs have going back to that 99 championship, which was their first. Spurs have 5 championships in the last 26, 27 years. Knicks haven't won one in 50 plus years. Okay. So that scarcity is gonna create a hunger that I think is going to lead to success. Scarcity is going to create a hunger that I say is going to lead, that I think is going to lead to success. All right. Knicks in 7, folks. Knicks in 7. Okay. All right, let's before we go to the coaches, what did I learn from Big Ben Maller? Right? The better stories in the losers' locker room. Shout out to Big Ben Maller. Maller Militia. All right. We don't play a hate. We congratulate. Might be able to get a call in this tonight. Might be able to. I hope to be able to. We'll see. Okay. The Fat Man Scoop, the Crooklyn Clan. But let's head over, folks, into the losers' locker room. And take a peek, right? Head to the losers' locker room and first of all, have to give credit to Oklahoma City. They say we win as a team, we lose as a team, right? We win as a team, and we're going to lose as a team. Okay? Respect. Chet, he wasn't ducking. Wasn't ducking at all. Okay? And he went out there and faced the music. I got to give him credit for that. Didn't appreciate when Victor, ducking low, as they say. Didn't appreciate him ducking low when, he had the bad game 5. I understand, it's an emotional game, so on and forth, but you got to take the good. You got to take the good with the bad. You got to be out there when things are going well, and you got to be out there when things are not going well. But Chet, SGA, he came out. There's only 2 things in sports, folks. There's winning and misery. SGA came out, faced the music, and said, listen, they were the better team. All right. The long faces that you see there Point of fact for me is if I'm the Oklahoma City Thunder, I got to look at the Denver Nuggets. A team that looked like they were built to last, built for the long haul. Really pushed the Clippers, beat the Clippers in the bubble. They didn't push them, they beat them. And they beat the Jazz in the bubble. Both series where they were down 3-1. Right? And, they had some injuries after that. But then when they were finally healthy in 2023, under the capable leadership of Mike Malone, they broke through and won a championship. All right. We thought that was going to be the Denver Celtics matchup, but this was the year for the N.B.A. Debacle. Unfortunate circumstance in a number of different ways. And the Celtics, they didn't have the institutional strength to be out there. So it was the Miami Heat team, an 8th seed Miami Heat team, a play-in Miami Heat team. They ended up representing the Eastern Conference, but they were no match for the Denver Nuggets. And Joker got his championship, right? So the next year, Celtics now bring in Jrue Holiday. They have their dynastic roster. As I said, they bulked up their coaching staff, gave Mazzulla the support he needed. So they're having it there. So Celtics were on a historic tear because they had all the pieces in place, right? And we were looking for a Celtics Nuggets, throwdown for the championship. But of course, the Nuggets were mad dogged by an upstart Minnesota Timberwolves team who sent them home packing. I believe the T-Wolves were down double digits late in Game 6, Game 7, stormed all the way back, right? And they just weren't impressed, and they edged out a Denver Nuggets team that was better than them. Then they go ahead and lose to Dallas under the capable leadership of Jason Kidd. I thought the Minnesota was better than that Dallas team. But Dallas, Kidd, the only person that's been able to get through to Kyrie Irving since Kevin Boyle when he was at St. Patrick's, was able to get through to Luka Doncic, right? 2 egocentric, eccentric personalities that Jason Kidd got to combine in a common effort, around a bunch of 3-and-D guys. And it was an analytics masterpiece. 3s versus 2s. Minnesota, like Anthony Edwards, is much more physically imposing and dominant than Kyrie and Luka put together. But it wasn't about explosive athleticism. It was about sheer skill, marksmanship, right? Yeah, Anthony Edwards is a much better athlete than Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is much more efficient and fundamentally sound than Anthony Edwards. Okay? I'm going to get to my spots and I will not miss. Period. You're not going to keep me away from my spots. And when I get there, I'm going to score just about every time. Whereas Anthony Edwards might be, it's a bird, it's a plane, you can leap a jump, you can leap a 10-story building, all the rest of that stuff. But can you make your free throws? Can you hit your open shots? Right? And that wasn't the case. And so the team that knocked off the championship team ended up getting knocked off before the championship. Point of fact is, right? So the Denver Nuggets last year, healthy now, but they have a knockdown, drag-out series against a Clippers team. When Kawhi Leonard is finally healthy in the postseason, which is wild. So that goes 7 games. This is the Denver Nuggets team that's holding on to their championship window. And then they face this Oklahoma City Thunder team who lost to the Dallas Mavericks that year before, but now learned from that experience and is ready to compete for a championship. This is last year when they ended up winning the championship. But Denver took them to 7. And there were times in that series where, first of all, Oklahoma City was down in Denver, double digits. I believe that was game 5 or game 6, stormed all the way back to win that game, which showed their championship pedigree. But beyond that, there were times in that series when Nikola Jokic just said, I'm the best player on the court, period. I don't care if you gave the MVP to SGA. It's disrespectful that you would even bring Chet Holmgren into my aura, into my bubble, whatever, into my presence. I heart, just stop. Like there's levels to this. Okay. Chet Holmgren is a good player, all-star level player. Ihart is a starting center on a championship team. Okay, but Nikola Jokic is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So just the fact that you would think that these guys can even imagine to slow me down is deeply offensive to me, and I'm going to show you how offensive that is. He was dominant. Okay, throughout that series. Now, obviously, Game 7 was a one-sided, lopsided, and Oklahoma City won going away. But just joke, Oklahoma City last year was the better team. They were better than Denver. Denver brought in Cam Johnson. They built, brought back Bruce Bowen. They did things to improve their roster. But when the going got tough, Joker just said, I'm the best player, and you guys are just going to have to deal with that. All right, pushed them to 7, lost. Oklahoma City goes on to win a championship. This year, Denver just, who knows? They give up a series to a Minnesota team with all kind of injuries, and then now from Denver, there's talk about Christian Braun, Cam Johnson. They just, it's run its course almost. It looks like their window is closed. For them to lose this year to a team that's not even healthy when they were healthy. And just like that, you go from 23, a team that's going to compete for multiple championships, to the 2011 Dallas Mavericks. One and done, right? So for Oklahoma City and these long faces, right, that you saw at certain points in this series, they just got out OKC'd. They're a team that is together, right? They have good culture. They're very talented. They're very precise, fundamentally sound, like all those things. But they were able in their championship season, and really, when you look at it, they're able to edge out just about every other team besides the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs are like the 99 UConn Huskies, as I said. The Khalid El Amin, Rip Hamilton, Jake Voskuhl, UConn Huskies that were not as good as that 99 Duke basketball team. It's not even close. Trajan Langdon, Elton Brand, Shane Battier, Corey Maggette, William Avery. That Duke team was just loaded. I missed 3 or 4 other guys. Chris Carrawell. That team was just loaded. Okay, and UConn came out in the championship just not impressed. And it's like, it's got to be 5-on-5. So you got 4 or 5 other starters on the bench, but we can only play, you can, right? We may only be 6 or 7 deep, but us 6 or 7 guys aren't leaving the court. So y'all going to have to deal with us all game, and we are not impressed by you. And that was a shock if you go back and watch that game, that 99 championship, where a championship, Calhoun done snatched 2 championships from Coach K, because he did it again in 2004. Even though in 2004 it was much more strength versus strength. Duke had Luol Deng, J.J. Redick, Chris Duhon, Sean Dockery, others. UConn had Ben Gordon, Emeka Okafor, Charlie Boone, Rudy Gay was somewhere in the mix, Charlie Villanueva. The team was just loaded. But that was 2 loaded teams going punch for punch. Whereas 99, the Duke team was just better, and UConn just held their own and edged them out at the end. But the point of fact is, we are not impressed by you. Okay? We're looking at you like, what? We're not looking at you like, oh, dude, who is you? I mean, like, you can't hold me. This is, I got to get Khalid El Hameen on the screen just so y'all can see what I'm talking. Because y'all might not, y'all, people might not know the reference. You want to talk about the round mound or rebound? That's Charles Barkley. You want to talk about a husky? Khalid El Hameen is like 5'11", 6 foot, like 220. Extra thick and husky. Out there playing division, like what? You know what I mean? I don't even know if he could touch the rim out of Minnesota. But he was that, that point guard, that confidence, that, you know what I mean? I don't, just an attitude about him. Right, folks? And that's a part of this. Oklahoma City, they're going to have to get accustomed now to being an underdog when they play against the Spurs, particularly. They are the underdog. The Spurs, and they're going to have to, and they're all nice guys, McCain, you look at Jared McCain, and he was a good player for the Sixers. He gave him up, he was a good player for, Sam Presti doing his thing, and iHeart, swooping in and taking the Tibbs guy, and Caruso, taking the Lakers guy, but all of their organizational strength, efficiency, might, so on and forth, San Antonio matches that. So the thing is, Oklahoma City, when you're the underdogs against the Spurs, and you've been the underdogs, and you might have had the defending champion, blase, all of the hoopla around you. But again, Mike Tyson. Everybody got the plan till y'all get punched in the mouth. Okay? You've heard the references. It's not that dissimilar to the David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon 1994 thing. With 94 was David Robinson's year, and he was the MVP. So, and Hakeem was like, you can't see me. Excuse me. You can't see me. All right, so that's where Oklahoma City, just like that, you go from feast to famine, just like that. Whereas now they have to look themselves in the mirror and say, can we get back to the top of that mountain? Can we edge these guys out? Can we do what Dawn Staley did this year against UConn, a year after getting smacked by UConn in the championship game, losing to frankly a better team with Paige Beckers, Azzy Fudd, and I believe their post player's last name is Strong. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, UConn was just better than South Carolina last year, and then UConn was just better than South Carolina this year, except South Carolina came in the Final Four and said, hey, before Gino had his tantrum, but South Carolina just said, hey, what I'm saying? We y'all done won 38 games in a row, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't impressing us. And we're going to be better than you this game, period. End of story. We got an elite game plan. We're going to execute the game plan, and we're going to take it from you. Same thing that Caitlin Clark did, the Iowa team that was supposed to get blown out by the South Carolina team led by Aaliyah Boston, probably double digits in the point spread if we go back and look at that game. But Iowa came out. Caitlin Clark came out. People are still trying to get their minds around it. They're like, we're not impressed by you. And we here now, and I'm going to tell you we here now. And people had a problem, and we're going to talk about this maybe a little bit more when we get into Jackson Dart, right? Caitlin Clark got a little swagger. Okay, got a little chutzpah. Good. But people feel something, no. Y'all got an attitude. I got an attitude. And what? I ain't impressed by you. You ain't showing me nothing. I expect to win this game. I don't care who you are. Right? So Oklahoma City has to counteract that and come up with a narrative and an ethos and a swagger of their own. Okay, because I feel that the expectations and being, and the pressure got to them. Right? They're supposed to win. They're expected to win. And they got in a situation where they just got outmaneuvered. Period. So I'm expecting a rematch next year in the Western Conference Finals. But we'll see if this, if Oklahoma City is able to regain their swagger. I think they can. but we shall see. Okay. We're going to stay in the losers' locker room. Hope everybody out there is doing well. SandCity, bye for the fans. We doing what we doing. Hope everybody out there is doing well in television land. A little bit late on the East Coast. It is what it is. This is the time that we have for the Passion Project. It's going down. Left Coast coming up on 9 o'clock, y'all. You know what I mean? It's good. I got time. Why they doing my man Chet Holmgren like this? Why is Chet Holmgren being treated like this, folks? What did he do to deserve this, is my question. Okay. They're coming out of the woodwork. As if Chet is the reason why Oklahoma City finds himself in the predicament that they currently do. I don't see it that way. Predominant factor as far as I'm concerned, where exactly was Jaylen Williams? He was hurt, folks. He's hurt. All right? A. B. Talked about this. Oklahoma City, team first. A lot of continuity, meaning they have an egalitarian offense that runs through SGA. Chet is, they're not scheming up things, a lot of things for him. They don't put him in a lot of screen roles with SGA. A lot of actions, like, by the way, the Spurs did more and more to their benefit with Wemby. You notice we had point center, okay? Point center Wemby. Just like like Denver utilizes and has utilized Jokic as a point center. All right, so he is the quarterback. Wemby was initiating the quote-unquote RPOs. Right? You saw the pass, cut, catches it. He catches it like free throw line extended. He catches it, free throw line extended, but because he's 7'5" and 8-foot wingspan, he just, dunks on Holmgren, but he just places the ball in the basket. Okay, so before we pile on, and there's more where this comes from in terms of how Chet is getting beaten down. There's more where this comes from. For me, he stayed within the game plan, which I don't think you can fault him. Oh, he only had 4 points. Is it his fault that he had 4 points, but Kassan Wallace had 16, 17 points because he got it going? No. Jaylen Williams had 10, 11, 12 points because he got it going, running the offense the way that it's designed to run, which is off of the actions created by SGA. I'm not going to criticize somebody for staying within themselves and within the system, which gave the team an opportunity to win. There's no criticism for playing efficiently. Now, so that's the 4 points. That's no excuse for these 4 rebounds, though. Yeah, man. If that says 4 points and 14 rebounds, we have far less problems. Right? So that's the argument that I will make with Chet Holmgren, not the offensive argument. And he is a good defender. And he did give Wemby trouble. And he did win possessions defensively against Wemby, head up. But we need double-digit rebounds from you, Chet Holmgren, period. I know you got iHeart in there, gobbling up rebound. I don't care. You got to get double-digit rebounds. You got to get those energy points. He's a good defender. He's a shot blocker. Okay? He can score. Right? But they don't run, as far as I'm seeing, a lot of offense specifically for him. He gets his touches like everybody else gets their touches. He gets about the same amount of touches as Caruso gets within the flow of their offense, making the extra pass, right? Not going to fault him for passing and being unselfish. I am going to fault him for the energy points that are low, for the Tommy points that are low. You got to get, hey, you only get, you're not going to impact the game, with double-digit points. I need double-digit rebounds. I need multiple blocks. I need multiple steals, multiple deflections. I need all of those Iguodala contributions from you, Chet. That's what I will say, and where I can take umbrage. Not just the points. No. Because I don't want to hear that. Okay? That was the issue with the Celtics for many years with Marcus Smart, who was determined to be a member of the quote-unquote Big Three when he wasn't a member. And there's no shame in not being a member. If he focused on being Defensive Player of the Year and a hustle energy guy, that would have been the rising tide to lift all boats. But he wanted to be a member of the Big Three, took ill-advised shots, and it hurt the team. Then Brad Stevens said, forget them picks. I'm bringing in Derek White, who's much more of a point guard than Marcus Smart is a point guard. And then he outdid himself the next offseason based on the feud between Cronin and Portland and Pat Riley in Miami that began with Dame wanting to go to Miami and Pat Riley stonewalling Cronin. And so when the Dame deal finally got made and he secured a bag from Milwaukee, he didn't want to be in Milwaukee. That's where you're going. That's where I get the best deal, point of end of story. So now we got Drew. Okay, Drew would want to go to Miami, but guess what? Cronin said, I ain't dealing with Miami. I don't care what you offer me. I ain't dealing with you. Brad Stevens sensed this. He swooped in. Here go Brogdon. Here go Robert Williams. And now I got my dynasty. Now I have a true point guard. Derek White can play the point guard, coming from the San Antonio tradition. He is a pass-first guy, even though he can score, but he will pass. But Drew Holiday is the ultimate point guard. He's the ultimate point guard. All-league defender. He can score. He can rebound. He just, right? That's why he's a gold medalist. That's why he's an NBA champion. He was the X factor for the Celtics. They need to bring him back if they want to ever be competitive again, period. But you notice what I'm saying, right? Where Chet, that's what you have to do. Forget the points. Got to be the rebound. It's got to be the other things to help the team win the possessions. And along with that point, folks, because this is what they're doing to my man Chet. What are we doing here, folks? Okay? What are we doing here, folks? How they slandering this man? What did he do to deserve this? Huh? What are we doing here? How this man is being treated right now? Huh? Chet deserves this? Okay? I say again, what are we doing? It's his fault that the Oklahoma City got mad dog by a bunch of hungry lions on the prowl, ready to go. It's all Chet's fault? So he has to be put in what? I think it's a little bit overboard as far as I'm concerned. We treating Chet like this. Come on. Again, this is the soul searching. You go back, right? I did the Learning to Fly, the Chicago Bulls Learning to Fly championship video was on constant rotation. The Learning to Fly championship video was on constant rotation. That was on constant rotation. Lost my train of thought. I got it back. when I was a young warthog. And yeah, talks about the Bulls when they was losing, getting their butts kicked by the Pistons in the late 80s. Those losses in 88, 89, 90, right? Kept losing to the Pistons. Okay, so by the time it come to 91, they said, hey, this is going to be a different, right? It's going to be different this year. And the Pistons had some injuries, so on and forth, but they swept the Pistons. And that was the end of one championship run and the beginning of another championship run. But the Bulls, they took their lumps over those years, and they did not forget. So that's where Oklahoma City finds themselves just a year after winning the championship, being on the top of the mountain. They're taking their lumps this year, and they shouldn't forget these type of things. I'm Chet Holmgren. I'm not forgetting. I'm storing this up, okay, in bulk. I'm storing it up in bulk. As we check to see. I'm storing it up, holding on to it. See folks out there. Chet, he's got to affect the game in multiple ways. He's got to board up. He's got to guard, the other teams, and he slowed down Wemby. Okay, you got to slow down Castle. You got to slow down Harper. You got to, okay, make the game difficult. And then, again, the point that I was, right? How many Castle had 2 or 3 putbacks. Keldon Johnson had a huge putback in the fourth quarter. All right. Now, I know Chet was in the game, out of the game, but those are the type of things that Chet, right? That's what we need from Chet. Nobody here saying, oh, Castle, Stephon Castle only had 10 points or, and he was scoring at a little bit higher of a clip, frankly. And Castle was going at SGA as well. Going at him. Okay. A couple times Chet did try to attack, and he tried to bully ball, and he just didn't have the leverage or the core strength. Didn't have it. It's not all on Chet, point of fact here, folks. It is not all on Chet, but he does have to step his game up. Okay? Oklahoma City's healthy. They got Jaylen Williams. That game could go into overtime, and we could have had an instant classic. All right? That team, let's not act like that they were not healthy. They need all three. You can say, hey, look, Spurs didn't have Fox in game 1, and they went wild. I got you. But it's apples and oranges. Spurs have a big 4. OKC has a big 3. So they're missing one they still got a big 3. Whether it be Harper, whether it be Fox, whether it be Castle, whether it be Wemby, right? They still got 3 guys that they can go to. Right? Which makes it even. Makes them even with the Thunder. And again, for me, being in the Commonwealth, I come back to this. Celtics, you don't trade away Drew, right? And Drew being, I think Drew is just the X factor. I love Derek White. Drew Holiday's a little bit better as far as I'm concerned. They're both good guys, had big impact. Drew Holiday's better than him. Okay? Now, it's not like like we get into this Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, 1A, 1B, all right, whether you're a Tatum guy, whether you're a Brown guy, they're both great for the team. You need them both. Okay? But that's an example right? Oklahoma City, they don't have, unless maybe you trade for somebody, but you don't have a 4th all-star. Well, you got 3 all-star level players and then a lot of good role players, which I think is a championship model. But all of those 3 guys, what's not a, all of their 3 guys need to be there for them to be successful. You can't just have Chet and Jaylen or Chet and, well, obviously SGA has to be there, but he needs both Chet and Jaylen there with him is the point. All right, put a little bit more. I mean, I can't necessarily talk about respect on his name right now with a straight face, but stop slandering stop slandering Chet. I think it's gone overboard. I think it's a little bit too much. Okay, it's a little bit too much. Okay, right. So we've discussed. It's going to be a good one. It's a lot of history and a lot riding on it. And we're in for a treat. Knicks in 7. I think we're gonna move on from the basketball. A couple more things to dive a little bit more into, but we'll come back to that because we got a couple days before the finals. Couple more days before the finals. But yeah, again, getting a little bit late on the East Coast. We're getting ready. Another work day tomorrow. It is what it is. This is the time that we have. The sun is shining. It's the summertime. So I got to use the time that I have for the passion project. I say it again. And we're going to go from there. Okay. Everyone out there in television land is doing good. Just check, make sure everything is good. Everything is all right. All right, let's keep it moving and grooving. We're going to head over into the world of football now. And head to the world of football. And as it relates to politics. Right? And, this important story. Jackson Dart, quarterback of the New York Football Giants, introduced Donald Trump at, one of the president's events. As is his constitutional right. Right. And, so there's been a discussion since, just about kind of the implications of this. And so let's dive right in. Just go ahead and get myself in order here. Something. Good. Not quite allergies, not, pollen and everything else like that. But, okay. Clock strikes midnight here on the East Coast into a new month, 1st of June. Beautiful thing. All right, folks. So, first and foremost, Jackson Dart, American citizen, has a right to support and vote for who he wants. Let's establish that from Jump Street. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee, I say. Yeah. Right. Bedrock, foundational. Okay. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Going back to the founders. All right. And for myself as a history person, okay, that being written in the late 18th century, okay, one of the great political documents of all time, something that it, as this is the 250th anniversary of the nation, we are still striving towards that lofty ideal, right? All men created equal, inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What does this have to do with Jackson Dart? Okay. Jackson Dart has the right to support the candidates that he wants to support. I'm not sure if there's much argument or debate on that. As far as I'm concerned, that's the beginning of this. Okay? He wants to support Donald J. Trump. He can do that. Now, the presidency is always going to be something where, about half of the country is going to be on one side, about half of the country is going to be on the other side. That's the way the elections have been, at least since 2000. Very close in the margins. 51, 49, 52, 48. Okay. So if you're supporting George W. Bush, if you're supporting Barack Obama, if you're supporting Donald Trump, if you're supporting Joe Biden, if you're supporting Donald Trump again, okay, yeah, but half the country is going to agree with you, and about another half of the country is not going to agree with you, period. Okay? So let's start with those foundational precepts. In a democracy, you have the right to support the candidates of your choice. A. If Jackson Dart wants to support Barack Obama, okay, I can think of numerous athletes that, if Jackson Dart wants to support Donald J. Trump, let me get my mind right. I can think of numerous athletes that supported Barack Obama, okay? All right, who was a president more to my preference, right? But if an athlete can support Barack Obama, to me, I'll cheer. I agreed with Obama's policy and presidency. Jackson Dart has the right to support Donald J. Trump, even though I personally do not agree with his policies and presidency. He does. He has a right to do that. Okay. So that's where we're starting this conversation from. And of course, you're welcome to jump in at any time. Now, okay. Just make sure everybody out there in television land is doing okay. Everybody's doing good. Now, first and foremost, well, we brought them first and foremost. When these things happen and players decide to go to the White House, decide not to go to the White House, decide to support a particular candidate, decide not to support a particular candidate. As far as I'm concerned, the dialogue needs to begin with not whether or not whoever is talking about it agrees with that particular candidate or not. The conversation starts with, you have the right. This is your constitutional right to support, this particular political leader. That's where the conversation needs to start. The conversation does not need to start with whether or not the commentator agrees or disagrees with that political leader. The conversation needs to start with, you have the right to do it. All right? That is A. If you got that out of the way, just go around, see anybody in television land that might want to tune in, chime in, let me know. Okay, now B, right? So now you have to talk about the individual's policies. Right? You support this individual, and by correlation, I can surmise that you are in support of this individual's policies. Right? Each president is going to have a couple. Donald J. Trump certainly, he has a number of policies that he's known for. ICE being one. International affairs, foreign policy, we'll say, is another that he's known for. The Supreme Court is not his purview. He did have the opportunity to, nominate 3 Supreme Court justices who were then confirmed, which, is the third of the court. Generally presidents have the opportunity to, nominate 1 if 2, but with the passing away of Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the very end of Donald Trump's career, he was given the opportunity to nominate and have confirmed 3 Supreme Court justices. So, right, that has given his worldview and perspectives considerable power on the nation's highest court. But that's just the way the cookie crumbled, frankly. Okay? He nominated 2, which is a lot of times president, you're going to get 1. Most get 1. Sometimes you get 2. Rarely do presidents get a chance to nominate 3. And Donald J. Trump only got the 3rd because of, circumstances that were, out of the ordinary. Okay. This is, again, diving a little bit deeper into politics, but for people who think about these things, had Ruth Bader Ginsburg lived, 2-3 more months, okay, Supreme Court would look drastically different. She didn't, so it looks like it does. All right. And so, yeah, the Supreme Court is notably conservative. But that's not, I can't make a 1-to-1 correlation between what the Supreme Court does and the current sitting president. Meaning, folks, back to Jackson Dart and the conversation that we're having, right? The court is doing things that are notable, but that's not what Donald Trump is doing, is my point. Okay? So Jackson Dart announces or introduces the president, which he has the right to do, and that's A. Big A, capital, boldface, underline. Now, the further conversations that we're having. All right, so Jackson Dart now, you've introduced the president. You are now subject to questions, rightfully so, as to whether you agree with this sitting president's policies. That's also fair and good. Okay. You do this type of event, right? Nobody's forcing you to do it. You have every right to do it, as has been established at the outset. But the next piece of this, Mr. Jackson Dart, or anybody else who does any sort of political advocacy, people have the right to say, okay, now, does that mean that you agree with ABC, XYZ? Do you agree with the president's policies? And if so, why? Excuse me. All right. Those questions are now above board and acceptable because of, this event and this choice. Nothing wrong with that. He might choose not to answer those questions. That's his prerogative. But those questions are relevant and again, I say acceptable, based on how Jackson Dart has kind of used his platform. Right? If you're going to use your platform to endorse or open for political leaders, then, we can ask, are you in agreement with those political leaders and what they are noted for? All right. Fair game. Haven't heard too many. I think Jackson Dart hasn't dived too deep into why he supports Donald Trump, what particular components of his platforms resonate with him. And so, all right, you're happy to, I think the word is you're welcome to do that. But let's now address the elephant in the room, right? All right. Donald Trump, current president, as I said, you got 50 people or so that agree with him, about 50 people. 50% of the American people are going to be in agreement. 50% of the American people are not going to be in agreement based on how elections are decided. President's approval ratings will go up and down depending on where they are in their term. Right? Trump's approval ratings might not be that high at this particular moment. All right. And so Jackson Dart plays in the NFL, and so again, just by the numbers, half of the NFL players are not going to agree with the president. Half of the NFL players are going to agree with the president. So by young Mr. Jackson Dart, 23 years old, out of Ole Miss University, let's get that up here. Right? Out of Ole Miss. All right. This is a state that Donald J. Trump carried in 2016 and 2024. Right? It's Trump country. For some context, Jackson Dart is originally from Utah, another red state. Trump country. Played his college football at Ole Miss. So, looking at the young man's background before he moved into the political space, it stands to reason that, Jackson Dart, he may, be inclined or receptive to Donald J. Trump's policies and perspectives because he has lived in areas, where that is the predominant view. Right? Okay. So now the further conversation, Abdul Carter talked about it, and his commentary I agreed with. This is his right to do it. He started with that as the foundational precept, which I agree with. This is his right to do it. That's the foundation right there. Recognizing those constitutional rights. And then, I might not agree, I might not disagree, but he has a right to do it. And we are going to, respectfully move forward as teammates and colleagues. We're going to respectfully move forward as teammates and colleagues. That is tremendous. That is democracy. Okay? That is civic strength. Very proud and supportive of that response and perspective. He said it. He has a right to say it. It might not be my way of viewing things. Nonetheless, we as teammates, as colleagues, are going to continue forward in a professional, productive fashion to maximize both of our labor powers and to benefit our organization. Wonderful. Okay? There it is right there. Okay, an example, a needed example, okay, of how we, as countrymen, citizens, deal with, the realities of our society, right? We live together, we work together, we enjoy recreation together. We agree, we disagree at times. We argue at times. Okay. But bottom line, end of discussion, at the end of the day, right? We respect each other's differences and treat each other the way that we want to be treated. Okay? There it is. Right? A lot of positive, uplifting, substance there to glean from. Okay? And that's the connection back to everybody's day-to-day life. Okay, Jackson Dart, famous, young quarterback in the NFL, in a huge market, has a lot of components there. Okay, he's young, right? We like that idea of progress, of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, going out into the world, confident, strong, to claim your success and carve out your niche. Right? He's in that, what my old man used to call his prime. Right? Fresh out of college, into the pros, and striving for his future success. That's all promising and hopeful. Okay. He expresses himself, goes into politics. Some athletes say they're not going to do it. Other athletes are more inclined to do it. That's just the way it is. All right. Fine. Other players are going to comment. It's a public story. But his teammates matched, or not necessarily matched, because he hasn't really spoken too much about it. He just did an event and then went back to his life. But his teammates, Abdul Kader in particular, I know James Winston also had a statement that was respectful, considerate, and Yeah, it was respectful. It was considerate. It was professional. Jameis is, and it was, hopeful and positive and optimistic. So he makes his statement or makes does the event, doesn't really want to talk too much more about it. His teammates comment on, the prevailing narrative in a respectful and responsible fashion. Huge win. All right, and we just go forward from there. And the connecting point to our day-to-day lives is, right, this is, however many Giants fans will pack a stadium, 80,000, whatever the number is. This is just day-to-day life in America. Right? You get up, you get going on another work day. Okay? You check in, you clock in. Some of your colleagues you vibe with, others, a little bit less. Okay? You're considerate either way. And hey, I'm voting for who I'm voting for. You're voting for who you're voting for. And that's that. And I'm reminded, right? It is, at the end of the day, and what needs to be mentioned about this, because I do remember like certain situations, it's with this conversation, and we're going to go back. What's exceedingly important about this Jackson Dart introducing Donald Trump narrative, what's exceedingly important is the reality that, yes, okay, a president, not just this president, but presidents in general are going to do things that many Americans, it might not be a majority, but it's certainly going to be many Americans are not going to agree with. And that's just the reality of it. Few of the president's decisions will receive unanimous support. Few. Many times that takes place in spaces of conflict or crisis when the nation unifies. Okay. But by and large, a sitting president is going to do things that some people are going to love and applaud, and other peoples are going to resist and despise. Okay? Within this Jackson Dart conversation, what needs to be said is that folks have the right to support their presidential candidate without the expectation of their morals and values being questioned. Okay? And the older version of Andre King, the Cape Cod Kid, can say this and understand it. Let me tell you something. The younger version, and I'm a history person, so this is how I see things, and I think back, being in college, when 9/11 happened, being in New York when 9/11 happened, being in college for the presidential election of 2004, yeah, and just being really locked in, and this is like momentous stuff, and the fate of the nation is in the balance, and I saw things in those days. I can remember black and white, good and evil, very stark terms. saw things, there's the right way and there's the wrong way, and we need to do things the right way. And if you're not doing things the right way, then you're doing things the wrong way, and I will tell you about it. Okay. I remember those days and those fiery opinions. Okay. And that's all good and well. What I wasn't doing then that I can see now, you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. And you have to recognize that, people have the right to make those decisions. And you might agree firmly, you might disagree firmly, but you got to give them the right to make their constitutionally protected democratic statements. They need that right. Okay. And one of the things I've learned, one of the things I learned from the older generation, one of the things they say is seek to understand, then be understood. You got to try to understand where people are coming from, and you might understand it, you might agree with it, you might not. Okay, but nonetheless, looking at it that way, as I said, again, giving people the benefit of the doubt, recognizing just the reality, democratic country, about 50-50, and we go from there. And by the way, that's true, and kind of conclude on that. The more you study history, the more you just see people, we can agree on certain things. We live together, we get along, at least, I'm living in the, post-Cold War, the post-Cold War era where I've spent the majority of my life. Okay. The social contract has been good to me. It's held up. Hope it continues. But people, we're certainly a melting pot. And so people have different beliefs, different views. So long as they're lawful and benign, meaning they're not harmful to any particular group. That it is what it is. You have your way of doing things. They're gonna have their way of doing things. But we respect each other and we move forward from there. Okay, and so that's what I'm really proud, I think is the correct word, of the New York Giants organization and the players in that organization in terms of how they're carrying themselves. And it's a teachable moment, I think, for a lot of us in terms of how we excuse me, how we live together as countrymen, countrywomen, Americans. All right. Let me just go here. Hope everybody out there in television land is doing good. We're going to get ready to move over in a little bit of slice of life. At this particular point in time, we can rewind down on this SandCity Sports episode. Again, thank those that have tuned in, checked in. We doing Passion Project all day, every day. And let's go. Let's go. Okay, I want to. So yeah, we're gonna start in our slice of life. Right. Speaking of the greats and greatness. We were talking about greatness within the social contract, but let's as we go into slice of life, let's get the volume right. Tom Brady talking about what it takes. What it takes to really make it. Let's go.
You know, again, over a period of years, but there's 53 guys on the active roster.
What the heck?
And
I shared the wrong screen. Gonna come back here.
There's now 15.
I got to get on the ball here, folks. Shared the wrong doggone screen. Heck is wrong with me? There we go. All right, let's cook.
You know, again, over a period of years, but there's 53 guys on the active roster.
Yes, sir.
And there's now 15 guys on the practice squad. So there's 68 players. But those practice squad players are important because if anybody on the active roster gets hurt, they can get elevated to the squad.
Yep.
Well, there was times where these 15 guys would do really well in practice. And they'd be practicing and you'd be like a scout team receiver. And I saw this happen a lot. These scout team receivers would come in and practice with, you know, the scout team. And they do really well. And I'd be watching. I'm like, man, we got to get that guy. Like, let's get him up on offense. He's making a lot of plays. That's Darrell Reeves. He's getting open. Like, we got to do something. Then all of a sudden, we're like, hey, man, you're doing really well. You got to come over here and deal with the pressure of succeeding now that you have expectation. And these guys are like, they weren't prepared for it. So whatever we saw in practice against where there was not a lot of pressure, now when they're put in a situation where there's an expectation for performance, they've never had to personally deal with that. And then they fail. And then what I realized was a lot of guys in those practice squads, they don't want to be elevated to the roster. They're very happy living this life where they could tell their family and friends, which I had no problem with that. Like, there's no problem. Like, you would just assume, though, that if you're on the practice squad, you'd want to be at the top. But the reality is a lot of guys don't want the pressure of doing something. I learned this, you know, again, over a period of years, but there's 53 guys on the active roster. And there's now 15 guys on the practice squad. So there's 68 players. But those practice squad players are important because if anybody on the active roster gets hurt, they can get elevated to the squad. Well, there was times where these 15 guys would do really well in practice. And they'd be practicing and you'd be like a scout team receiver. And I saw this happen a lot. These scout team receivers would come in and practice with, you know, the scout team. And they do really well. And I'd be watching. I'm like, man, we got to get that guy. Like, let's get him up on offense. He's making a lot of plays. That's Darrell Reeves. He's getting open. Like, we got to do something. Then all of a sudden, we're like, hey, man, you're doing really well. You got to come over here and deal with the pressure of succeeding now that you have expectation. And these guys are like, they weren't prepared for it. So whatever we saw in practice against where there was not a lot of pressure, now when they're put in a situation where there's an expectation for performance, they've never had to personally deal with that. And then they fail. And then what I realized was a lot of guys in those practice squads, they don't want to be elevated to the roster. They're very happy living this life where they could tell their family and friends, which I have no problem with that. Like, there's no problem. Like, you would just assume, though, that if you're on the practice squad, you'd want to be at the top. But the reality is a lot of guys don't want the pressure of doing something. I learned this, you know, again, over a period of years, but there's 53 guys on the active roster.
It's facts right there.
And there's now 15 guys.
It's facts. Talk about the pressure.
Like I want that. I want to win so bad. It's like my life depends on it. Like I want that. I want to win so bad. It's like my life depends on it.
Okay. Longer clip and a shorter clip, same focus. You know, we want this, we want that, we want the third, but we don't want the pressure. We meaning, you know, most people. Most people. Okay, we got another clip or two. Let's get the preps in here. Stars of tomorrow. Talking about pressure.
You remind me of a throwback player in a newer game. Where does that intensity and mindset come from?
Yeah, really my 8th grade coach, for real, Joe Saunders. Well, I used to play basketball when I was young. I didn't really want to play for real. I was playing for fun. Didn't really care about wins and losses. Got into 8th grade. COVID happened. That's my COVID year, like 7th, 8th grade year. So I reclassed. He was just on my ass, like, you don't want it enough. And I'm just like, bro, like, it's basketball. And got to the point where, like, COVID came, gyms are shut down. I'm driving an hour and 30. My dad's driving. I'm not driving yet. My dad's driving me an hour and 30 every day to Middleton, Rhode Island. I'm from Brockton, so it's like an hour and 30. I'm getting my ass busted about 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds. I'm like 13, 14. He's like, bro, you don't want it enough, bro. You don't even want to be great. And at that time, I'm like, I don't want to work a job. I don't got the patience for that.
Yeah.
My mom's only goal for me, like, she loves that I'm declaring for the NBA, but my mom's only goal is to go to school for free. So I'm like, all right, I'll take it serious. And by that time, like, I started with the passion. I started screaming, yelling, flexing, and I kind of carried through.
Who were some players that you, once you started taking it seriously, that you looked up to?
My favorite player is Kevin Durant, easy one. But the comp I got recently was Tracy McGrady, so I've been studying a lot of Tracy. But I love Paul George, Kawhi, Brandon Ingram, Tatum, Brown, Shea, Luka, and Edwards.
I think you got a little more, you show a little more passion in your game than both those guys you compared yourself to. They both great. I played against both of them, but you have a little bit more
fire.
Yeah, you got a little more fire in you.
To me, you remind me of a throwback player in a newer game. Where does that intensity and mindset come from?
Yeah, really my 8th grade coach, for real, Joe Saunders. Well, I used to play basketball when I was young. I didn't really want to play for real. I was playing for fun. Didn't really care about wins and losses. Got into 8th grade. COVID happened. That's my COVID year, like 7th, 8th grade year. So I reclassed. He was just on my ass, like, you don't want it enough. And I'm just like, bro, like, it's basketball. And got to the point where, like, COVID came, gyms are shut down. I'm driving an hour and 30. My dad's driving. I'm not driving yet. My dad's driving me an hour and 30 every day to Middleton, Rhode Island. I'm from Brockton, so it's like an hour and 30. I'm getting my ass busted about 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds. I'm like 13, 14. He's like, bro, you don't want it enough, bro. You don't even want to be great. And at that time, I'm like, I don't want to work a job. I don't got the patience for that. My mom's only goal for me, like, she loves that I'm declaring for the NBA, but my mom's only goal is to go to school for free. So I'm like, all right, I'll take it serious. And by that time, like, I started with the passion. I started screaming, yelling, flexing, and I kind of carried through.
Who were some players that you want?
Yep. Speaking of which, let's stay in the Commonwealth. Talk about coaching and the passion. It's another one of our teams, Donovan Clingan. He's a Spartans guy.
The inner city kids, right, in Boston, a chance, because if you know the history of Boston AAU, there's kind of one team. There was nothing for inner city kids if you weren't a top guy. So when I started coaching, I'm like, you know what, let me start a program that gives, you know, the middle of the pack guys a chance to develop, become something, and that's what we did. And that was about 2011. I just think to be a Boston type player, you have to be tough, right? If you know our program, we defend, we rebound, and we run. There's no reason why we shouldn't be at the end in July in MSC. There's no reason. We have everything you need. Groups been together, to your point, with playing on the maid circuit, middle school wise, the 7th and 8th graders. 2 to 3 months ago, I was talking to Donovan Clingan, right? So he asked me, like, Coach, what is that competition like? And I told him, I said, honestly, it's the best non-shoe circuit in the country. To me, it's right up there with the best circuits in the country. They've done a really good job of getting the best teams from all over the country, and it shows. Just want to give the inner city kids, right, Boston, a chance, because if you know the history of Boston AAU, there's kind of one team. There was nothing for inner city kids if you weren't a top guy. So when I started coaching, I'm like, you know what, let me start a program that gives, you know, the middle of the pack guys a chance to develop, become something, and That's what we did, and that was about 2011. I just think to be a Boston type player, you have to be tough, right? If you know our program, we defend, we rebound, and we run. There's no reason why we shouldn't be at the end in July in MHC. There's no reason. We have everything you need. Groups been together, to your point, with playing on the maid circuit, middle school wise, as 7th and 8th graders. 2 to 3 months ago, I was talking to Donovan Klinger, right? So he asked me, like, Coach, what is that competition like? And I told him, I said, honestly, it's the best non-shoe circuit in the country. To me, it's right up there with the best circuits in the country. They've done a really good job of getting the best teams from all over the country, and it shows. Just want to give.
Yep. Few more. Spartans mass program. Believe the zero gravity finals are next weekend. It's a big event. I always like to referee those events. I'll see if I can make a special guest appearance. I love to do it. The zero gravity finals, where you see all the top teams in the state come through. I'm going to make an effort to be there. Make an effort. It's good energy. Good energy at those. Okay, let's take a look. This is City Rocks, the EYBL circuit. It's a good chance. That's City Rocks. That's the EYBL, or the Nike team out of upstate New York. Syracuse area. So this last weekend, Zero Gravity had what's called the Stakes newer tournament. I like it. $10,000 cash prize. We'll take a look. Again, City Rocks is EYBL known. We'll take another look at this is Team New England. I guess they're on the Puma circuit. And they're going to match up against that EYBL team. I have to check to see who won. I got to give the edge to City Rocks. They're tough. Got to give the edge to City Rocks, but we'll see. All right, we got one more clip. We're gonna get ready to. See him out there hooping. Let me see. My goodness. All right, so we've seen that. I'm having a. All right. Let's see. Had a clip. It's not coming through. Didn't have that clip. Let's head over here.
when I first got in the NBA, I used to take everything so serious. Like the media, like we lost the game, I'd be sad. Like, oh man, you gotta get better. I gotta do this. After like year 3, I didn't care. I'd be like, hey, text me. You know what's going down. So after that, I just stopped caring. Like, not about basketball, but like the outcomes of the game. Like, you want to win, but if you lose, it was kind of like, shit, we lost, got another one tomorrow, man. Let's try to get back to it. Yeah. And then you only see them serious when the playoffs come. You been to the playoffs yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like their attitude.
It's different. Yeah, it's very different.
It's like all of a sudden, hey, let's win this motherfucker. You be like, damn, motherfucker, we could have won all the games. And that's how it was just weird. So I stopped like kind of getting into all that stuff. And then you know when it's a contract year, certain guys care a little more. All of a sudden they in shape. All of a sudden they the best teammate ever. When I first got in the NBA, I used to take everything so serious. Like the media, like we lost the game, I'd be sad. Like, oh man, gotta get better. I gotta do this. After like year 3, I didn't care. I'd be like, we lost. Because you will see your teammates, like, shit, where we at tonight? Shit, let's get something to eat. Where we going? You be like,
it was so different.
And they be in like year 12.
Yeah.
Shit. Hey, text me. You know what's going down. So after that, I just stopped caring. Like, not about basketball, but like the outcomes of the game. Like, you want to win, but if you lose, it was kind of like, shit, we lost, got another one tomorrow, man. Let's try to get back to it. And then you only see them serious when the playoffs come. You been to the playoffs yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like their attitude.
It's different. Yeah, it's very different.
It's like all of a sudden, hey, let's win this motherfucker. You be like, damn, motherfucker, we could have won all the games. And that's how it was just weird. So I stopped like kind of getting into all that stuff. And then you know when it's a contract year, certain guys care a little more. All of a sudden they in shape. All of a sudden they the best teammate ever. When I first got in the NBA, I used to take everything so serious.
Yeah, it's a good place. You know, it's a long journey. It's a long journey, and you don't necessarily. I like the honesty, but you know what he was kind of alluding to, Jeff Teague. You don't want to get into that place of indifference. You know, of going through the motions. That's not a good place to be, regardless of where you're at. You know, you do want to stay connected to your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations, and the whole going through the motions, and that's not a good place. The indifference, the apathy, not a good place. So you try to avoid that. But certainly recognizing, you know, whether the N.B.A. or your 9 to 5, you know, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. It's a long, long journey that you're going to have to give yourself grace. You're going to have to, so it's, you know, it's going to be different phases, the ups and the downs all around. So definitely, that's definitely true. But that's no excuse. We can't allow apathy. We can't allow apathy to take root for sure. All right, folks, a lot to get to. NBA Finals jumping off. By the way, shout out to Unity Day, People of Action. Got to give the quick shout out. Yes, sir. The flag man puts these together. Unity Day, People of Action. I think that ties into what we talked about in terms of, you know, Jackson Dart and, political appearances and beyond that, our social contract, you know, and be the ability to at the end of the day partner together as citizens and as countrymen. Yes, sir. Hey, SandCity, go. I am your host, Cape Cod Arts, you know, Andre King. Thank you so much.